Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of The Buzz. I'm your host, Todd Jadin. With me is my co-host, Tammy Grunert, and very special guest, Tom DiSalvi. Tom leads our safety area. Tom, thanks for being with us this week.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
We are going to talk about the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, CVSA, and Operation Safe Driver Week, which actually takes place between October 18th and 24th. So by the time you're watching this, very quickly after you get to see it. So Tom, why don't we start, you kind of explain what CVSA is and what they do.
Sure, Todd. So CVSA, as you mentioned, Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, it's the organization that provides leadership and guidance to the law enforcement and roadside inspectors. So they establish the rules and the criteria for what to inspect and how regulations should be set forth.
Awesome. So what are some of the top issues they're going to focus on during that week, Tom?
Sure. Well, Tammy, in this particular case, and as drivers think about CVSA, they're used to enforcement-based programs. For example, in June, there's Road Check. In September, there's Operation Air Brake, which is typically roadside type enforcement issues. In this particular case, Operation Safe Driver is an event that focuses on actual driving behavior, and it's geared towards both commercial motor vehicles and privately owned vehicles, or POVs. So what you're going to get is more on education, less on roadside enforcement, but there are still going to be a lot of enforcement citations and warnings. And to your question, Tammy, the big issues are going to be what you might expect. It's going to be speeding, it's going to be seatbelt use, it's going to be obeying traffic signs, and it's going to be just attentive driving. And what you'll find is it's the same for both trucks as well as for the POVs.
Okay.
So it's very similar to what my daughter is going through in driver education right now, because I have a 15-year-old that had her first 2 days of classes, the last 2 days, asked her about what they're learning about. That's the stuff they're learning about.
Safety.
And so it gets enforced whether you're in a truck or whether you're in a car. So what are some things our drivers should remember, Tom?
Sure. Todd, great question. And I think the tips for this event, or the tips that we would want our drivers to keep in mind every day that they're out there on the road. It's basic tips for defensive driving, but first and foremost, seatbelt use. It is the most simple, most basic safety device we have in the truck, yet it's the most effective. Always wear your seatbelt. But then it's driving with awareness and being attentive. It's obeying the speed limit. It's lane change using the Take 10 method that we train. It's proper following distance, 7 seconds in dry weather, double it if inclement weather. All good tips for defensive driving for both this week and every day.
Okay, so that's a very quick summary of what we can expect during that week in October. Anything else we need to cover in this buzz?
I would say, because there will be heightened enforcement during this week, I think it's always good practice for drivers to make sure they don't ever leave without their CDL, their medical card, having a spare paper logbook in case the electronic logging device goes down, having what we call the sweat card so that if an inspector asks, and keeping the permits booked up to date. All good things that make sure that you get a clean inspection every time.
Awesome. A bunch of great advice for Operation Safe Driver Week. Not only that week, but every week of the year. You take care and drive safe.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy.
You're welcome.